Bedford Hills, NY. Angelica Grasswald was released from New York State Prison on Thursday, about 5 months after she pleaded guilty to sabotaging her fiancé's kayak before he drowned in the cold and choppy waters of the Hudson River in 2015. She emerged to a sunny afternoon from the Bedford Hills Correctional Facility, a women's prison in the rolling woods of Westchester County. Ms. Grasswald declined to talk to reporters, but stood next to her lawyer, fidgeting and looking away from the bank of cameras. As he made a brief statement, she's grateful to be able to breathe in the fresh air, walk in the fresh air, her lawyer, Richard A. Portali, said, standing across the street from the prison, on a hill where journalists had been camped out. The case generated attention far beyond the area just north of New York City where her fiancé disappeared, fueled by prosecutors' description of a seemingly doting partner who desperately called 911 for help only to later tell investigators that "I wanted him dead." Ms. Grasswald, who was initially charged with second-degree murder, was sentenced last month to up to 4 years in prison after she pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of criminally negligent homicide. She had been detained for a total of 32 months since she was arrested in April 2015, in connection with the death of her fiancé, Vincent Viafor. The couple was on a kayaking trip on April 19, 2015, returning to the western shore of the Hudson, when Mr. Viafor disappeared into the water after his kayak capsized several miles north of West Point. His body was found the next month. Ms. Grasswald was arrested 10 days after his disappearance and taken into custody after an encounter with investigators on Bannerman Island, which she had visited with Mr. Viafor on the day of their kayak trip. She had returned there to leave flowers in his honor, the authorities said. The authorities said that Ms. Grasswald had removed a plug from the boat and knew that a locking clip that kept the paddle in place was missing. Prosecutors also said she pulled away Mr. Viafor's paddle as he struggled in the water. During a lengthy interrogation, the authorities said, Ms. Grasswald made statements implicating herself, telling investigators that it felt good knowing he was going to die and that his drowning had brought her relief. Prosecutors said she knew she was the beneficiary of 2 life insurance policies belonging to Mr. Viafor. But in a television interview, Ms. Grasswald said that she loved Mr. Viafor and said that she told investigators what she thought they wanted to hear after hours of questioning. Her lawyer also added that because Ms. Grasswald, a native of Latvia, is not a native English speaker, a language barrier limited her understanding of her rights. In July, less than a month before her trial was set to begin on the second-degree murder charge, facing up to life in prison, Ms. Grasswald pleaded guilty to the lesser charge after reaching an agreement with prosecutors. Prosecutors said that they had increased doubts over the likelihood of a conviction, given her conflicting statements, and that investigators had found, after extensive tests, that removing the plug was not, in itself, enough to cause the kayak to capsize. Everyone wants more, but in this case, we had to make sure there was a certain outcome and that somebody was held responsible, and that's what we did, David M. Hoovler, the Orange County District Attorney, said in a news conference in July. There was a very good chance that if this case went to trial, you don't know what a jury was going to do. After her release on Thursday, Mr. Portali said that Ms. Grasswald first hoped to have a video chat with her family and reconnect with them in a meaningful way. She was going to stay with a woman who helps inmates reintegrate after their release. Mr. Portali said reconnecting is going to be difficult and reconstructing her life is going to be difficult, he said. Her day-to-day, her reality, is much different than it was 32 months ago. She's excited to be able to do that. At this point, we're going to get started.